Guys, we still don't know exactly what's going on in the game.
Yeah.
So we'll get a ruling here pretty soon. They're still over there discussing it right now, trying to make that ruling. So it's obviously a really big deal. You practice on a map, and then you're like, whoa, this is not the right map. It hurts your mentality, and all of this in general is going to hurt both players' mentalities. You know?
Yeah. No matter what happens, like, this is not what you're expecting. You're planning on going into a game live at a certain time. You psych yourself up for it, and then it pauses and like, wait, this isn't the map I was planning. Like, I don't know why it took so long for him to figure this out.
Yeah, that's another thing I was kind of wondering, because he was in the lobby for a while. The countdown started. I know Jinro's Korean is good enough to figure out what map it is. He can actually order food and stuff. His Korean's really good. Plus, there's a little map preview, so I find that kind of weird. And
maybe he didn't get the spawn he wanted on the two-player map and wanted to restart.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just don't know. All right, I've been told to leave the game, so...
So we are going to go to a different map. Not sure what it's going to be.
Yeah, or at the very least, the map will be remade, because I know Jinro and ASD may be walking around a little bit, may have seen, like, there's, like... Well, I guess it's a two-player map. The spawn position doesn't really matter. I don't know. It might just be remaking it. We'll find out pretty soon.
But it does seem like there was something lost in translation there. It is very difficult sometimes for the Korean and English. GOM does a great job most of the time, but it's very difficult for the teams to get in Korean, send it out in English, get it in English, send it out in Korean. Just a whole lot of mistakes going on, or not a whole lot of mistakes, one little mistake going on. But it's something that we'll recover from very quickly. Not exactly sure what's going on. We are actually going to be playing on Crossfire first, then Zelnaga Caverns, and the final map will be Metalopolis. So it seems like the program was actually incorrect. Jinro did get the correct information, so he will have the right preparation for these games, which is very fortunate for him.
Yeah, so that's really good to hear. I was sorry, I kept like looking down, looking at you and stuff, because they kicked me out of the game, and then they invited me to a party by accident. I was like, party? I just got invited to a party. I was like, actually, the Korean observer's like, do you want to play 3v3s with me while we sort this out? I'm like, invite to a party. It's like, your partner wants to start a 2v2 match. I'm like, well, I was casting this game, but maybe I could play a 2v2. And I was like, oh wait, no, you meant to invite me to the game, so I didn't.
Betting over a bottle of Jinro. They love to bet on all their games here.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are going to be playing these maps that Jinro had originally expected. I probably think it's just a slight mistake in the planning side, where the players both got the right information, so they are going to both be prepared for this. But it was just a little bit of a mistake, like the observers were thinking, oh, this is the first map. Oh, wait, no, that's the wrong section. So it's all sorted out now. We are going into Crossfire. The players are going to be prepared, and these are going to be some really nice games here from Jinro versus ASD Foyu.
Yeah, there are going to be some really nice games, some great TVTs. The first map is Crossfire. We could see a lot of different things here. I think we're going to jump into the game right now.
Yep. Well, in a little bit.
In a little bit.
Gotta talk more about some mules.
I just thought I saw the queue, and I was like, all right, we're going in now. Just so stressed out by that whole scenario, man. All right, up here at the top right, we've got a player from the Team Liquid, a great website and team, known as the Gorilla Terran. Has defeated the Kraken. He is
Jinro.
Shaky.
That's Jinro itself, actually. It's a soju brand. Well, they do a lot of drinks here in general, not just soju, but they do make a soju. At the bottom position, a member of the Team Foyu. His name is the first 3 characters on the keyboard.
Foyu?
With bunny ears on the side of your head?
Yeah, I don't know about the bunny ears.
ASD.
Maybe it was supposed to be horns, like an esports goat.
Maybe ASD stands for something and no one told us that.
Well, I don't know, because if you look at ASD Foyu, then the F is there. It goes on the the first 4 characters of the middle row of the keyboard, so it's just like a random. It's almost as if he couldn't think of an ID, and he was like, "What'll I do? I'll just use ASD," and then there's F there for Foyu, so it makes kind of sense.
But he did have nuclear, and then he changed that. Anyway, we do have a refinery coming out here early for Jinro. He is going to get that gas to be able to get out a factory and some early tech. As it's talked about a lot, this can really change the pace of the game. It's nice to see a lot of Terran players in TVT choosing different styles depending on what they want to be doing.
It's very true. I think most likely from Jinro, we will see either Blue Flame Hellions or Banshees. Sometimes you see Blue Flame Hellions on this map because the map area, the spawning area, is so large.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different places to drop the Hellions, and they have a lot of room to work with.
Yep. And having those Blue Flame Hellions all game is really good. Your natural is close to your main, so it's easy to defend. But after that, your third, you're either going to go to as Jinro, you're going to either go to the top left or to the right side, which is really hard to defend. So having the mobility of Blue Flame Hellions can really go and do a lot of damage to your opponent.
This is true. Does wall that SCV out.
So Jinro getting that refinery first, his orbital command is going to be delayed slightly, but because he's going to get a little extra gas, it'll balance itself out later.
True. Factory just now starting for ASD, whereas of course Jinro's factory is much further ahead. Hasn't taken a second gas just yet, which does kind of lend itself towards that pre-igniter Hellion theory.
Yep. Pre-igniter Hellions, or just trying to get some tanks and bio out there. If you're trying to go for Cloak Banshees, you're usually going to get that second refinery up, so you have the gas for the Banshee and for Cloak to start at the same time. When you do start the Cloak at the same time or slightly before the Banshee, as soon as your Banshee gets to your opponent's space, Cloak will be finished.
This is interesting. Jinro floating his barracks out here, most likely just for scouting. But this is going to kind of tell his opponent that he has no intention of making Marines. It does make him relatively vulnerable. It is going to be Blue Flame.
Very nice read by you there.
And I gotta say, ASD is most likely going to expect this. He knows the gas. It was a gas first type of build. He's making a bunker here at the front of his ramp, just in case he does a type of drop where he drops some Marines and then uses the Hellions at the front, or vice versa. Wants to have that bunker there just to be safe.
Yeah, Jinro also didn't send any sort of scout out early on, so he is not going to know that there is a wall off by ASD. This is going to be very difficult for Jinro to get the Blue Flame Hellions in early on. If the Blue Flame gets scouted, then ASD is going to know absolutely that it's going to need to be a drop by Jinro. However, Jinro is actually just using these Blue Flame Hellions to defend, put a little bit of pressure on while he puts up a command center.
Yeah,
but
he's actually
does not get scouted. Oh, there it gets scouted. That's unfortunate. And the SCV actually gets in through Jinro's wall. Jinro had a supply depot down, so ASD is going to know exactly what's going on here. There's the factory going up with the Tech Lab, working on something. He doesn't know if it's Blue Flame or Siege mode.
Here come those Hellions now. He's about to figure it out. Using the barracks for vision. Now I understand the plan.
Yeah, that was really nice timing by that barracks. He came in right when those units were there. He can peck at this wall. If he can take down that one supply depot, he can run those Hellions in. As soon as Blue Flame finishes, which is almost now, he can take out these Marines very, very quickly. Oh, or he can try to.
Just be very careful. Does take out the SCV, repairing the supply depot. I like this strategy by Jinro. He's definitely planned to do this from the beginning.
And ASD getting supply block temporarily. He can't get out any more units, however. There is one Banshee on the way. Cloak is halfway done. As soon as that finishes, he can force this force to back up a little bit. One Hellion tries to get in here, but it's not going to be able to, and it's going to be forced to run away. He does have 24 health. He can back off. However, his barracks is burning, and it will burn to the ground very soon, but not before doing what it needed to.
Exactly. A second factory going down for Jinro here, making it before that barracks dies, so he will have both those factories. Cloak finishing up pretty soon here. Banshee moving out. And Jinro does have a Viking already prepared. He does not, however, have an engineering bay. Second orbital is almost finishing up. If he doesn't drop that first wheel, he will be okay against this. If he does, though, he could be in some trouble.
Yeah, Jinro wasn't able to get the scouting in the base to know that it's definitively Banshee's coming, but he was playing very, very safe and getting that Viking out early. With that Viking, you are still forced to use a scan when this Cloak Banshee comes in, but you aren't going to lose too many units if you play it right. And here comes the Viking, forces the scan, or forces the Cloak and the scan.
Nice control by ASD. He may be able to escape with this Banshee.
Yeah, the Banshee only takes about half health so far. He's going to force another scan in order to kill it. Jinro lost how many units in that?
About 5 units.
Five
SCVs were killed.
Good for ASD, but not game-breaking quite yet.
And as the Banshee actually going to come over here, force another scan, as well as kill some SCVs. Jinro starting to lose a lot here.
And he's actually repairing his SCV. That's a really nice maneuver. He's keeping one alive that would have died otherwise.
Does end up being somewhat costly, and the Banshee stays alive.
Oh.
Banshee at now 9 kills, 10 kills, 11, and 12. We're learning how to count here at the GSL. 13, 14.
The Cloak finishes, the energy ran out, and it is going to get killed, but after doing 14 SCVs kills, that's huge. The thing is that Jinro is on 2 bases, while ASD is only on 1, so you can replenish those SCVs without too much damage. Jinro is at 22 SCVs compared to ASD's 29, something that can recover from relatively easily.
Yeah, normally when you see someone who has a command center, you don't attack the SCVs, you attack the standing army of your opponent. That way, hold that thought, here comes the second Banshee in here.
Second Banshee coming in, but there is a Viking and a Raven. If they can get into position and keep these SCVs alive long enough, he should be able to force this away without having to use a scan, which is exactly what he's doing right here. 5 kills being done.
And
6, 7 kills. Ooh.
Kind of rough repairing those SCVs, still losing them plus the repair money, but I think in the long run it was a good choice because otherwise we would have lost maybe 1 or 2 additional SCVs.
Yep. And Jinro actually had sent an SCV down to repair that burning barracks that he was using for floating vision. That's really good because you only send an SCV out for a little while, and you can keep that scout there to know exactly when your opponent's going to be expanding.
Right now, supply-wise, ASD is 20 supply up. That's part of that is in SCVs, of course, because he was making SCVs off of 2 commands, so he just didn't lift his down yet.
And there's also a lot of Marines here, so he does have a lot of supply, but it is in relatively inexpensive units, while Jinro has Vikings, tanks, and Raven out, which are a lot more expensive compared to the supply.
Not to mention, he's got 3 factories, and he's got 1 with a reactor, so he's always going to have those very cost-efficient pre-igniter Hellions coming out. He's going to keep his tank count pretty high, and ASD going to be falling further and further behind as time goes on, I think.
Yeah, ASD slightly ahead in the resources. However, these Blue Flame Hellions can run across here, get the map control back, and if they don't run into siege tanks, they can do a lot of damage. But Jinro reacting quite quickly, only takes 1 volley and is able to back off, get some repair, make sure he knows exactly what's going on.
Looks like Jinro is going to be fully meching here, obviously. We saw that factory, or rather barracks, lift up and fly away. He hasn't used it since he hasn't made any additional barracks, so another part of that, you leave keeping that barracks alive so he can make some more factories. Without the barracks, you can't make a factory. But in addition, he's going to be able to scout with that later. He's having it float over the 3rd base location right now. He's actually making Marines there as well. Yeah,
landing it is great because you prevent any command center from going down. You have the vision, obviously. You can float it away if ASD sends some units at it, but you can also produce some units. Not too critical, but just a little bit of extra advantage that you can get. Every little bit that Jinro can get, he needs right now.
The problem is, though, ASD's got a pretty solid force. It's stronger than Jinro's right now, and he has better SCVs, so Jinro hasn't quite caught up in that regard yet, so he's got better economy, he's got a better army right now.
But Jinro does have 6 siege tanks right now. He does have siege mode as well. If it were to come into a straight fight versus fight, Jinro would... well, it really depends on position.
It does depend on position. There are 3 Marauders in this mix. If he catches Jinro on siege, it's going to be really bad for Jinro. Jinro has no units to buffer. He just has those tanks. He's got 2 Hellions as well.
But he does know where this army is. He is going to siege up within range of the Xel'Naga tower, so he's going to prevent ASD from being able to get it. However, ASD is putting up a sensor tower. As soon as that goes up, he's going to know the exact movements of Jinro's army and be able to respond accordingly.
People were doing this in TVT a long time ago, just putting sensor towers up with their tanks. You don't see it as much anymore because tank armies are usually much more mobile. There's a lot more bio going on in TVT, but this is like old school TVT right now.
Set up sensor towers everywhere so you can't even see the minimap because of the little sensor tower rings.
Exactly. Now Jinro's movements are, like you said, completely seen and known by ASD. Speaking of movements, he's going to move forward here. He's got vision with that Viking and Raven. He may try to inch his siege tanks closer in the middle. ASD preparing for a flank, though, getting units in several different directions.
Continuing to reinforce with tanks, Marines, and Marauders. It's a really nice mix by ASD. If he attacks straight on the force of Jinro, it's not going to be in the best favor for ASD, but if he can catch Jinro siege tanks unsieged like you were talking about, he can do a lot of damage with those bios. Push in, take out a couple tanks, and run away.
Exactly. Hellions checking around the map as keep getting shots to those. Both players really wanting to make sure that the other is not taking a 3rd.
Was that a mule drop?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, so he dropped the mule. He was trying to do a mule bomb. It's something that was played around with in the beta a little bit, where you drop a mule on the tank of your opponent and you force the friendly tanks to attack it. If there's enough tanks in the area, you can actually kill tanks relatively easily with that. But Jinro is being a little bit messy with this. He did lose 1 Viking to the missile turret of ASD. ASD doing a great job of trying to just set up this line where he has missile turrets and tanks, just preventing Jinro from moving forward too far.
Jinro has prepared to do a pre-igniter Hellion drop. Its dropship's kind of sitting at the bottom right. There is a turret and some units there to defend, so he should be fine against that drop. Jinro still behind in workers, just 9 workers behind. There are 17 Marauders out for ASD, and that's really scary. He's using them. He's actually moving around the side of the map. He may break down the backdoor rocks of Jinro's base with Marauders in TVT. This is actually a really creative idea.
Yeah, he only has... Oh, no, he is going to go for a drop here.
Well, either way, this is going to be quite effective because Jinro's army is not there. Marauders are so strong, you can't just have 1 siege tank there to defend.
And Jinro has sight of the rock, so he's going to see it, but the drop is going in here. It's going to do some damage. There's actually a drop supply that gets taken out. That's going to be huge. Supply blocking Jinro, almost. A lot of SCVs going down here, but the Blue Flame Hellions are going to come in. They're not going to do a whole lot to the Marauders, but they are going to clean up the Marines there and allow the tanks to come in here and clean up everything else. Vikings come in, take down the medevacs, and make sure this is a one-way trip for this little excursion force. Meanwhile, there is a small attack going on at the main force. It does get cleaned up quite nicely by Jinro.
And he even dropped that point defense drone to stop the Marauder shells from attacking. That was a great move by Jinro. He did lose a lot of supply depots there, but has remade them instantly.
Yep.
He's still got a pretty decent position here in the middle of the map.
And that floating barracks that we were talking about earlier in the game did actually come into play. ASD tried to send an SCV over to get a third base, but the barracks there prevented it from happening.
A lot of different run-bys here by ASD, using Marauders to dodge Jinro's large tank force. A lot of Vikings out for Jinro, though. That air control allowing him to move his siege tanks forward. That's so important in this matchup, that air control for vision.
And we do have a little forced posturing by ASD to take down these rocks and move in. Jinro putting down a missile turret to prevent the drops, but the drops aren't going to matter at this point because he can just walk in through the rocks. Vikings landing on these tanks is really good by Jinro.
Oh no, he has the concave at the top of the ramp as well. Jinro is not going to be able to send his forces back. This is looking really bad for Jinro. He's just going to avoid those tanks, go in and crush all of these production facilities.
But there was a point defense drone down there, limiting the damage of the Marauders, but not quite enough. All these Marauders are hurt. If Jinro can get in here with a nice army, he can take it down quite easily, but not before losing a lot of SCVs.
He's even going to lose some siege tanks as well. Targeting down those tanks with his Marauders, he is cleaned up, but ASD taking a significant supply lead. He's done a ton of damage.
And meanwhile, Jinro is going for a third base off on the right. He is preventing the third of ASD, so this is really good positioning for Jinro. If he can hold on for a little while, he should be in good shape. But ASD does clean off this barracks, but not before Jinro delayed the expansion of ASD.
Yeah, both of these guys getting their expansions up around the same time. Jinro actually making a planetary at that base rather than making an orbital. Doing his repair thing, maybe get a shot of it in a second.
Yeah, and this Marauder does scout it, so having that planetary is going to be great. Jinro doesn't need to invest so many units into defending it.
But at the same time, if he gets sieged up there, he can't lift. He has to repair it. Does get to be quite problematic. Also, if drops come behind the mineral line, the planetary can't reach them.
But the thing is that because those rocks are down in the back of Jinro's main, he has to spread his forces so thin. So having that little bit of extra defense at the third base of Jinro is really going to help out later on.
Yeah, I like that choice. In this specific case, I like the choice. And these Marauders are going to come in here again. And again, Jinro not having army back at this base to deal with this. He's so spread out in the middle of the map that he can't deal with these little attacks. Nice stem and run by here by ASD. Now there's nothing waiting for him. He's going to take down this turret, breaking down all the production of Jinro, going for the add-ons again, killing tanks that come out.
Yeah, ASD being very, very aggressive with these drops, with these run-bys by the rocks, just doing constant damage here and there. Well, that's exactly what he needs to be doing in this DVT. Taking down some supply, trying to supply block Jinro. He is supply blocked temporarily, but he does get enough more. A little force going to attack this planetary fortress. They just try to skirt by and take out the minerals. Meanwhile, Jinro can't mine in his main quite yet.
He may lose his engineering bay as well. We'll get a shot at that planetary in a second. There's a drop behind Jinro's planetary. He can't mine from there. Whereas ASD's dropped a ton of mules over at his new third base. He's got a great economy right now. Jinro falling further and further behind in this game.
He's falling behind in the supply. However, a lot of his supply, or Jinro's supply, is in expensive units like he was early in the game. He is also actually still up one SCV, so his economy's not too far behind.
Nice sim run forward here by ASD, taking out a lot of these tanks when he realized his opponent just didn't have the reinforcing tanks he needed. And like you were saying, Jinro had the better tank count, but that's starting to change here pretty rapidly.
Yeah, not only tank count, but ASD is getting a lot of really nice upgrades. We saw this happen in the ASD versus Boxer game, whereas Boxer had a lot of the map control, had a really nice tank count, but he didn't keep up with the bio upgrades. And once that first battle happens where both players trade their armies, ASD is able to replenish a bio army much faster than Jinro can replenish a mech army. And the upgrades on those bios are really going to make him very, very scary later in the game.
He's got +2 on the way. He's got +1 vehicle weapons level 1. Neither player having those upgrades just yet. So ASD can upgrade just a little bit faster. Jinro has researched Cloak for his Banshees. He started some Banshees as well because he thinks he has a really good level of air control right now, so he's going to try to abuse that.
Yeah, those Banshees do a lot of DPS, even in just a straight-up fight. Like, the Banshees are used a lot just as harassment. But meanwhile, we do have a drop going on by ASD. Gets taken down quite easily.
The planetary, we'll get a shot of it in a second, is under siege by ASD. This is why it's sometimes bad to make planetaries. He's not mining at all from that planetary. In fact, he's just repairing it, so he's essentially just losing money, keeping it alive.
Yeah, and Jinro is smartly focusing on the siege tanks. It's the only thing that's doing damage right here. It also can't be healed by those medevacs, so if you can keep it down, then he should be in good shape. But ASD doing a nice job of keeping the bio in the front so that the Banshee can't quite hit the siege tanks.
Yeah, this is where this Banshee and air control does really come into play. He does finally take out that Banshee, though, and now Jinro's planetary is in a lot of trouble. Well, as long as he can get vision of it, that is.
Yeah, there's no air units. That's actually key, is the vision. When you don't have the spotters for your tanks, you've got to use a lot of scans, which is very expensive. And Jinro doing a nice job here of using the Vikings on the cliff. If he can take down these last two siege tanks, it will make this planetary fortress safe. But there is a fight going on in the middle of the map. A lot of units coming across here for ASD. They're taking out the small forces that Jinro had to defend here. If he can take down this force, he takes the top position and is able to shell the expansion of Liquid Jinro. But Jinro is going to rally at his natural, try to defend against this. If he can, he should be okay.
But Jinro, like you're saying, he should be okay. He's got that Banshee there. There's nothing to deal with the Banshee. Now the Marines get here. He's going to scan, take that Banshee out. Does take the Banshee out. Loses a lot of Marines, though. Now ASD is going to have to go in with these tanks. He doesn't want to be too careless with them.
Yeah, ASD in a very good position here. He is on 138 supply compared to Jinro's 116, but that's not a lead where you can be careless and throw away a lot of units.
Exactly. Nice control here, having the Marauders just with enough vision to give vision for the planetary. Now he's going to use this point defense drone with the Vikings. The Marauders can't kill the Vikings because of the PDD.
That's a really nice maneuver there by Jinro. He is just going to walk those Vikings down and take down the tank once they get within the minimal range of the tank. Nice
maneuver there.
Yeah.
It was smart. I liked it.
It's maneuvering for a nice maneuver.
Now, ASD may actually try to go into the back again with this large tank force. It actually looks like he's going to try to go and flank. Units coming here at the front to absorb shots, and he's going to try to run down these siege tanks. If he does, Jinro will be in a lot of trouble.
This is a lot of tanks for Jinro. He does have a point defense drone to minimize the damage of the Marauders, but they're just running through and just doing too much damage here. The siege tanks of Jinro are just outside the range of the siege tanks of ASD, but that is a lot more tanks for ASD. If he pushed in, he would have taken a lot of damage, but done a lot of damage himself. However, Jinro is moving in with a Banshee. This cloak is proving to be very, very useful. He does lose it, but he did exactly what he needed to, which was push back that tank force, regain a little bit of the ground so he can feel a little bit safer and actually breathe a bit. Meanwhile, we have a nice...
Got the gold base, this Hellion, you're going to do a little bit of harassment. Though ASD has seen it, and the Marauder will clean it up. And drops a ton of mules there.
6 mules dropping down on the gold. That's huge. It's going to get just a ton of minerals. Because ASD focused on that Bioforce, he is going to be able to get a ton more barracks and a ton of Marines. All those Marines with, I think it's almost 3-3 now. Maybe
it's
3-2?
It's at 2-2. It's about to be 3-2.
2-1 right now.
2-1 actually, yep. But now if he cleans up this planetary for Jinro, this is basically the last mining base of Jinro. He's mined out at his natural, trying to target down that planetary. He may just go for it. He is going to go for it. And the planetary falls. This is really bad for Jinro. His SCV is going to die here as well. He's completely mined out. He has no mining right now.
Yeah, Jinro getting a really strong air army. It looked like he was positioning to try to transition into battle cruisers. If you can have air control and get battle cruisers out, you have a really hard to counter army. However, the 3-3 from the bio that's coming out for ASD would still be quite good against it.
Oh no, Jinro's caught unsieged.
Does not have enough, and he is forced to GG.
That was rough. I gotta say, Jinro played really well. I like the Banshee usage.
Yeah.
But ASD just kind of outclassed him there. His multitasking showed to be a little bit better. The pre-igniter Hellions from Jinro from the start didn't do a whole lot.
Yep. It looked like he wanted to be very aggressive against any sort of fast expansion, but that is not what ASD chose to do. So those Blue Flame Hellions, yep, shake your head for those.
Jinro not feeling very good about that game, obviously. And his mindset might have been a little bit shaken after the map issue. That's very stressful.
Yeah, you don't want to have something that you're not prepared for actually happen when you're in a live game like this. But I think he is going to rally against this. We've seen him come back from deficits before.
Oh, we have.
And he can definitely do it again.
Yeah. I mean, he is getting his proper maps. I'm not saying that the maps were changed. He is getting the maps that he was told to play on. But the thing about this is, it hurts your mentality when you're worried about that. You lose your first game.
Yep.
It's incredibly difficult to come back from that. But I think Jinro, if anyone can do it, Jinro can.
Of course he can. And we are going to move into Xel'Naga Caverns, something that he's got a lot more experience playing on. Probably suits his style a little bit better. It's something that is played in a lot of foreign tournaments, which he goes to as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the thing about Xel'Naga Caverns for TVT is there's always those Xel'Naga watchtowers in the middle that are very important to hold. The tanks often siege up there. Banshees can be quite good on this map because you can fly between the main and the natural. There's that open area where Banshee can hide from Marines. You can hit the main and natural back and forth, be very annoying. Blue Flame Hellions don't really see the main area is very small compared to a map like we saw Crossfire, so the Hellions don't have a lot of area to maneuver with, so I don't think we'll see Blue Flame. It's a possibility.
Well,
kind of curious, though.
Early Blue Flame doesn't have as much power as it does on a map like Crossfire or Metalopolis or something like that.
Exactly.
However, later in the game, there's a lot of different avenues that you can actually get to the opponent's base, so you can start to use Blue Flame Hellions later on.
Yeah.
The drops are a little bit difficult because as you move into the mid to later games, you have so many production buildings that you just cover up the entire.
Yeah, it's
main,
like the area is very small. That's what I was saying earlier. It's very difficult to drop. The Hellions, though, can do little things like run behind the mineral line at that lower ground expansion back behind the base and be very annoying there. Go to the gold base, control those Zelnaga watchtowers. It's really great to have those Hellions. They can even tank shots. If you have enough of them, we've seen MMA do that on this map. So
yeah, and if you can